Dear students, welcome to the economics class. Today we are going to study Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is what our today's topic. So in this lesson we will study the introduction. The main objective of this book, Indian economic development, is to familiarize you with the basic features of the Indian economy and its process of development. Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is what our today's topic. Okay. During the time of Britishers' rule, how our economy was doing, that is what actually we are going to study in this lesson. So in introduction, the main objective of this book, Indian economic development, is to familiarize you with the basic features of the Indian economy and its process of development. In order to understand the various phases of development, it is important to first look at the state of India's economy prior to the country's independence and form an idea of the various considerations that shaped India's post-independence development strategy. In this lesson, we will also study the present economic state of India. At present, what India is doing in the field of its economy, that also we will come to know. Okay, so this is what the first topic we wanted to understand. Indian economy on the eve of independence. This is the point. The main objective of this book, Indian economic development, is to familiarize you with the basic features of Indian economy. We will study the basic features of Indian economy. We will also understand the various phases of development, what nowadays our Indian economy is doing. That also we will study. It is important to first look at the state of India's economy prior to the country's independence and form an idea of the various considerations that shaped India's post-independence development strategy. Nowadays, what strategy India is doing for its economic development. This is what the main topic we are going to study in this chapter. Origin of British rule. The British rule over India changed the course of history in India. The foundation of British Empire in India was laid by Battle of Plassey, 1757. The Siraj-ud-Dawla and the Viceroy Robert Clive fought each other. That war became a decisive war in British rule. The British rule over India changed the course of Indian history. The foundation of a British Empire in India was laid by Battle of Plassey War, which war brought Britishers rule in our country. That was actually the Plassey War, 1757. After this war, Britishers got India's control. This point you need to remember, this date you need to remember, the origin of British rule. Okay, that happened after the war between Siraj-ud-Dawla and Robert Clive. That war is also known as Battle of Plassey, 1757. After that, around 200 years, Britishers ruled our country. Basic purpose of British rule. What was the purpose of British rule? That we will study in this part. The main purpose of the British rule in India was to use Indian economy as a feeder economy for the development of British economy. Britishers' ultimate aim was to develop their country. Therefore, they have taken all raw materials and other resources from India to their country. So, Indian economy was feeding their economy. British colonial rule tempered the Indian economy very badly. In Britishers' rule made India a very poor condition, that brought India's economic situation into a bad condition. They exploited India's natural as well as human resources. They have looted, they have plundered India's wealth to their country. Okay. So, they exploited India's natural as well as human resources for the glory of their own country. Finally, after 200 years of British rule, India gained independence from them on the 15th August 1947. This date you all know. Okay. So, the basic purpose of British rule was to develop their own country. That was their interest, not our country, India's development. That was not their ultimate aim. Their ultimate aim was to take away the complete total wealth from India to their country. That's the main points you need to remember. Okay. Then the next one is, in this chapter we will study a brief introduction of the state of Indian economy prior to independence and just after the attainment of independence. After getting independence, how our country is developing in the field of economy and in the field of transportation and in the field of industrialization, etc. we will study. So, in this chapter we will study a brief introduction of the state of Indian economy prior to independence. So, what was the situation before independence, that we will study. So, the economy of India before the independence, that also we will study in this lesson, and after that what happened after the independence, Indian economy's status, that will position, that will also we will study. To appreciate the current economic status of India, we should understand the factors that led to the underdevelopment and stagnation of the Indian economy. While Britishers were ruling, what was the economic status, position, level, India's level, that will also we will come to know. After the freedom, what changes, what transition happened in India in the field of economy and in the field of development, that will also we will study. And also we will study why the stagnation happened, why the stagnation, or why India's economy didn't develop while Britishers were ruling in our country, or during the British rule, why India's economy didn't develop that much, that will also we will study. Okay, that also we are going to study in this lesson. Low level of economic development under colonial rule. Okay, Britishers ruled our country, so we were their colony. Okay, so we will also study about the meaning of colony and who ruled us, etc. Before the advent of British rule, Indian economy was characterized with the following features. Indian economy was doing well before the Britishers' arrival. That is what actually this lesson says. Indian economy was prosperous. India was an independent, self-reliant and prosperous economy. Agrarian economy, agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most people, and it engaged about 2/3 of the total population. So, before the Britishers' arrival, Indian economy was doing good and its GDP level was very high. So, in every field India was prosperous. Okay, India was an independent, self-reliant and prosperous economy before the Britishers ruled our country. Okay. Agrarian economy, our Indian economy was an agrarian economy, means agriculture was the main employment or cultivation of people. Agriculture was the base of our people's livelihood. Most people and it engaged in the field of agriculture. Around 2/3 of the people, 2/3 of its people engaged with agriculture. Okay, so our more people were doing more work in the field of agriculture. That is what actually the main points in this area you need to remember. One is India was prosperous before an agrarian economy. Agriculture was the main source of livelihood for most people, and it engaged about 2/3 of the total population. 2/3 of its total population engaged in agriculture. That also, all those points you need to remember. Okay, then we can check the next one. well-known handicraft industries. Okay, before the Britishers' arrival, our handicrafts industry was doing really good. India was also known for its handicrafts industries in the field of cotton and silk textiles too. India was doing good. Metal and precious stone works too. There were, and all those industries were doing good. Handicrafts products enjoyed a worldwide market due to its reputation of fine quality of material used. Okay, in the field of handicraft industries, India was really a well-known industry or well-known place for handicrafts industries. India was. Okay, in the field of cotton and silk, and metal, precious stone, all those works were doing highly good and standard products India was making. Okay, at that time India got a worldwide market because India got much reputation because of its fine product, because Indian industries used or Indian companies used very quality material for its products. Okay, so India's handicraft industries got worldwide reputation. That point you needed to remember. Then, however, during the British rule, the economic policies pursued by the colonial government in India, British government, India was their colony, so many policies and laws they made against India. Their ultimate aim was to develop their own country, so that they wanted to exploit Indians and they wanted to loot and they wanted to plunder India's wealth to their country. That is why they have prepared so many laws, unwanted laws that can damage our economy, that they have prepared. Okay, so their interest, their concern, or Britishers' interest was to protect their own economic interest. Their own economic interest means Britain's economic interest. Britain's economic development was their ultimate aim or ultimate goal. Okay, they didn't give any much attention on the development of Indian economy. Their policies brought a fundamental change in the structure of Indian economy. All those unwanted laws actually damaged Indian economy or degraded Indian economy in its poor states. Okay, brought fundamental change in the structure of Indian economy. So all those policies totally changed the structure of Indian economy, that completely damaged. They transformed the country into a supplier of raw materials and consumer of finished industrial products from Britain. They have their laws. Okay, they have implemented new laws and strategies. By that actually they were destroying Indian economy in order to take more raw materials and resources from our country to their country. After that, what happened? They prepared their industries in Britain, prepared other products, finished products, and brought to India, and India became their market only. That was the main points you needed to remember. Britain's ultimate aim or goal was to develop their own economy, protect their own interest. That was that. Their ultimate aim was to not support India or give better to India. India was just, they wanted to take raw materials from this country and make the goods, finished goods there, and bring all those finished goods to our country and supply it in India and make more money for the development of Britain. That was their ultimate aim. Meaning of colonialism, we have studied a word, we have seen a word colony. So now we can see what is colonialism. Colonialism refers to a system of political and social relations between two countries. There are two countries involved in it. Okay, one is the ruler and the other is its colony. One country is ruling the other country. One is colony and the other one is the ruler. Here in India, we were the colony. India was the colony. And the Britain was ruling as the ruling country. Not only has political control over the India, but it also determines the economic policies of the dominated country. That is why Britain made new laws and strategies. Okay, but that actually they destroyed Indian economy. They damaged completely Indian economy. Okay, so in case of India, the unequal relationship between the colony and the ruling country resulted in underdevelopment of India. What happened in India? Britain destroyed India's economy. They didn't implement any new strategies to develop India's economic base. They didn't introduce any new laws, but their all laws were actually degrading Indian economy and its position. See, the low level of national income and per capita income. So therefore, they have implemented new laws that was to take Indian wealth to their country and Indian raw materials from India to their country, and they brought finished products from their country to India. So what happened? India's national income and per capita income went downward, and it was in its lowest level. The economic condition of a nation can be judged with the data of national income and per capita income. How do we come to know a country is doing in the field of development? So we first of all we wanted to study their national income and per capita income. When we see a country's national income and per capita income, then we will come to know that country is a developed nation or underdeveloped nation or developing nation, that we will come to know. Okay, so the economic condition of a nation can be judged with the data of national income and per capita income. However, no sincere attempt was made by the British government to estimate India's national and per capita income. During the period of British rule, they have not taken any attempt to estimate India's national and per capita income. They didn't calculate, they didn't estimate India's national and per capita income. Some individual attempts were made by experts like Dadabhai Naoroji, William Digby Findlay, Shiraz, V.K.R.V. Rao and R.C. Desai. All these eminent and personalities and scholars, they are experts and scholars, they have done laborious attempts to calculate or estimate India's national income. But all these estimates produced conflicting and inconsistent results. They have explained that actually India was not doing good in the field of national income, in the field of national income and per capita income. India was not doing good. At that time, while Britishers were ruling India, during the time of Britishers rule, India's national income and per capita income was in its lowest level. That you need to remember. Then, however, estimates of Dr. Rao on national and per capita incomes were considered very significant. Most of the studies revealed that the country's growth of aggregate real output during the first half of the 20th century was less than 2%, and only 0.5% growth in per capita output per year. Okay, our national income and per capita income was very less actually. So 0.5% growth only we got at that time in per capita output actually per year. The per capita income and the national income was very less at that time. So Britishers, that is an evidence that Britishers completely destroyed Indian economy for the benefits of their own economy. That means Britain's development, that was their ultimate aim, that you will come you will study in this lesson how they destroyed Indian economy. So, first of all, we can check what happened in the field of agricultural sector we can study. During the pro-British period, the condition of Indian agriculture was not at all satisfactory. Okay, they were in the field of agriculture, Indian laborers, Indian farmers were not doing good. Okay, they couldn't perform very well. India's economy under the British colonial rule was overwhelmingly rural and agricultural in character. At that time, more people engaged in agricultural activities. Okay, more people engaged. Nearly 85% of the country's population lived mostly in villages and derived livelihood directly or indirectly from the agriculture. Okay, so more people were doing and working in the field of agriculture. More people were engaged with agricultural activities. Even with this large proportion of population engaged in agriculture, even though more population engaged in the field of agriculture, the country was not self-sufficient in food and raw materials for industry. The country was not doing or not supplying enough raw material for its industries. Even not sufficient food was not available at that time. During the time of Britishers rule, even in a Bengal famine is very famous actually. That time many people experienced poverty and famine was there, and because enough or sufficient food production was not there. That you needed to understand in this chapter. Main resources for stagnation in agricultural sector. Okay, main reasons for stagnation in agriculture sector means why agriculture sector didn't perform very well. What was the reason? What was the stumbling blocks? Why the agriculture field could not do well? The stagnation in the agriculture sector was caused due to the following reasons. First was land settlement system. You needed to remember this word, land settlement system. Totally destroyed the agricultural sector. The most important reason for stagnation in agriculture sector was the introduction of zamindari system by the colonial government. So, the land went under the control of zamindars. Okay, in every villages there were zamindars, and in every taluk and in every provinces there were zamindars. So, the agricultural land was under their control. Okay, that actually after this land settlement system, the land went to the hands of zamindars. The land, farming land, okay, the farmers' land went to the control of zamindars. Zamindari system totally destroyed the agricultural sector. We will come to know more about this. Under this system, profits accruing out of agriculture sector went to the zamindars in the form of lagan. That was a tax. Lagan was a tax. Okay, in the form of this tax, the profit went to the zamindars. Okay, that destroyed the agriculture field. That also destroyed the agriculture field. That you needed to remember. The main interest of the zamindars was only to, regardless of the economic condition of the cultivator. Zamindars didn't give much attention on the benefits, on the development of agriculture, or they didn't give much support to the farmers. They were simply collecting the lagan. Every year they increased the lagan, and they never checked about the production, the cultivation. They were only thinking about the lagan, the tax, and they were very much interested in collecting tax. That's all. The dates for depositing specified sums of lagan to British government were also fixed. All these zamindars collected tax from the farmers, and after that they needed to deposit that tax to the Britishers. They needed to deposit that tax to the Britishers. For depositing that tax, they also put specified sum of legant to British government were also fixed. The date, the particular, before the particular date, the zamindars needed to deposit the collected amount from the farmers. They needed to deposit all amount to the Britishers within a particular time period, okay, within a particular date. So that also, so therefore they were actually forcing the farmers to deposit the tax very early. In case the zamindars failed to submit the amount within the date, then what happened? Zamindars were to lose their rights. They have to lose their right. They can never be a zamindar anymore. They cannot be a zamindar anymore. They will change the zamindars. They will appoint another zamindar, so that the existing zamindars forced the farmers to pay more and more taxes in time, okay, within a particular date, okay. That also made the farmers suffer more. They could not perform very well. The zamindars and the colonial government did nothing to improve the condition of agriculture. That is the point you need to remember. The zamindars and the British government forced the farmers to pay more taxes, and also they didn't provide any improvement. They did nothing to improve the agricultural production. They didn't improve, they didn't support the farmers. You need to understand all these points. The zamindari system, after that the taxes they have introduced and that they have put more tax on agriculture and on the farmers. Then for submitting the taxes, they also put a particular date. The dates for depositing specified sums of legant to British government were also fixed. Okay, in case the zamindars fail to submit the deposit the amount in time, what will happen? They will lose their position as zamindars. They cannot be a zamindar anymore. That happened, okay. That also they made such law. The zamindars and the colonial government ultimately did nothing to improve the condition of agriculture. The agriculture field didn't improve. Agriculture field saw its worst time while the Britishers were ruling our country. During the period of Britishers rule, we have seen very poor economic condition. The agricultural sector was not doing good. Then the commercialization of agriculture. This point also you need to remember. Commercialization of agriculture means production of crops for sale in the market rather than for self consumption. Commercialization of agriculture. So the Britishers forced people to produce more cash crops than food crops, okay. That happened. During the British rule, farmers were given higher price for producing cash crops. They were encouraging the farmers to produce more cash crops than the food crops. Cash crops like cotton, jute, etc. increased its production. Okay, they did not improve the economic condition of farmers, because instead of producing food crops, they were producing cash crops. So they produced cash crops. Our farmers produced more cash crops than food crops. The cash crops Britishers collected and took to the Britain. They have taken all the cash crops to Britain. Okay, they had taken all those cash crops to Britain. Okay, from Britain they made finished products, and they brought those products to our country. That happened during the time of Britishers. The Britishers were not allowing our people to produce cash crops. Instead, they were allowing our people to produce more cash crops. They didn't allow food crops production mount up or increase. They didn't do that. Actually, they didn't allow. Okay, ultimately what happened, the Britain's economy was developing. Ultimately they have taken natural resources, raw materials, everything to Britain, and Britain for what? For developing their own interest and their own country's progress. That was their ultimate aim. This British rule promoted shifting of crops from food crops to cash crops. This point you need to remember. Okay, British rule promoted shifting of crops from food crops to cash crops. Okay, so Britishers forced people to produce more cash crops rather than food crops. That point you need to remember. So commercialization of agriculture happened. All those raw materials from cash crops moved to Britain, and from Britain they have produced in Britain they have produced more finished products, and all those finished products came to India. They imported to India and sold all those in our Indian market. That is what commercialization of agricultural sector. Okay, commercialization of agricultural sector. I hope you have understood all these points. Dear students, welcome to today's economics class. Today's topic is Indian economy on the eve of independence. We are going to study about the commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture and its result. And commercialization of agriculture resulted in famines. So commercialization was one of the reason for famines in India during the time when Britishers ruled India. Okay, during the British rule, agriculture was commercialized. This point you need to remember. During the British rule, agriculture was commercialized. This commercialization of agriculture resulted for famines in India. Okay, the famines became one of the became frequently happened in India. The famines happened in India due to the commercialization of agriculture. Okay, that is the point. Okay, that you need to remember. During the British rule, agriculture was commercialized to cater to the needs to the British industries for necessary raw materials. Why the famines occurred in India? Because the scarcity of food. Why the scarcity of food came in India, or India faced the scarcity of food? Why it happened? Because the raw material, because the Britishers were forcing our farmers to produce more cash crops rather than food crops, because the British industries demanded more and more raw materials from India. Okay, so that was one of the main reason for famines in India. So that is why the famines frequently occurred in India when Britishers ruled India. 1921 Bengal famine is very famous. Okay, you can collect more details about it. The British industries were always in need for raw materials like cotton, jute, groundnut, sugarcane, etc. All these raw materials for producing more sugar, for producing more dress materials, and for their British industries, raw materials they have collected from India. So more cotton, jute, groundnut, sugarcane, raw materials moved from India to Britain. So that was one of the main reason why famines occurred in India, happened in India, because there were shortage for enough sufficient food. Okay, you understood the point. I trust you understood it. Agriculture was commercialized during the British period in India. So Britishers were forcing our people, our farmers, peasants or tenants to produce more cotton, jute, groundnut, sugarcane, etc. Mainly the raw materials for the products, finished products. Okay, all those raw materials moved from India to Britain, and after that Britain's industries prepared finished products. All those finished products at last came to Indian markets. So enough food for eating was not sufficient in an Indian market. Okay, so Indians faced famine. That is the main point you need to understand. Why the British government forced Indians to produce more raw materials? Because the raw materials from India supplied to the British industries. So British industries in Britain existed only because of Indian raw materials. Mainly what type of Indian materials? Like cotton, jute, groundnuts, indigo, silk, etc. All those raw materials went to Britain. So Britain's factories made finished goods. After that, they were selling all those products in Indian market and earning more money for developing economy, Britain's economy, for developing Britain's economy. Okay. So the next point, we can move on to the next point. By offering high prices, the Indian peasants were attracted to production of commercial crops instead of food crops. So the British government forced Indian peasants to produce more cash crops. They also offered high prices to our Britishers offered high prices to Indian farmers, peasants and cultivators, so that Indian peasants made more or created more, cultivated more commercial crops. What is commercial crops? Commercial crops means cash crops. Cash crops means crops which can make more money. So by selling that, the farmers can get more money. For example, cotton, jute, groundnut, sugarcane, etc. That is known as commercial crops. Okay, so Indian peasants or Indian farmers were producing more cash crops instead of food crops. So Indian economy faced scarcity of food, shortage of food. Indian villages, mainly the rural areas, facing shortage of foods. Okay, the scarcity of foods. So we can move on to the next point, the extent of commercial agriculture. The extent of commercial agriculture went so far as to make many peasants purchase their food requirements from shops in towns. So what happened? Indian peasants were producing more food, cash crops, so that the raw materials they could export to abroad, and from abroad, mainly from Britain, finished goods came to our market. So all peasants were attracted to producing commercial crops. So what happened? There were scarcity of foods available in Indian market. So most of the people were purchasing food products from the shops, market. Okay, that is also made troubles in Indian markets, because the shortage of food items. Food items were not enough at that time. This fall in production of food crops was responsible for frequent famines in India during the British days, that we have already discussed. During the time of Britishers' rule, India faced famines. There were scarcity of food. Okay, so the fall in production of food crops was responsible for frequent famines in India during the British days. I trust you have understood all these points. The main reason was commercialization. The main reason was commercialization of agriculture. Commercialization of agriculture. Okay, so that you need to understand. That why? Because of commercialization of agriculture, more cash crops they made. Okay, food crops production was very less. So Indian market faced scarcity of food crops. Okay, that was one of the main reason for frequent famines in India. Okay, we can now go on to the next point, low level of productivity. So now we are going to discuss about the low level of productivity. What is low level of productivity? Low levels of technology, lack of irrigation facilities and negligible use of fertilizers resulted in low level of productivity. What happened? Low levels of technology. The Britishers didn't promote technology in India. Modernization they didn't implement in India. In every field we were using traditional methods. Okay, in the field of agriculture, in the field of education, and in the field of health service, everywhere we were using the old traditional technology. But the low levels of technology, lack of irrigation facilities, water supply in the field for agriculture, that is known as irrigation facilities. A lack of irrigation facility was there, and negligible use of fertilizers resulted in low level of productivity. The productivity was very low, mainly in the field of agriculture and in the field of industrialization. Why? Because of this low level of technology, lack of irrigation facilities and negligible use of fertilizers. Our farmers didn't use more good fertilizers. They were following the traditional method of agriculture, like dry leaves, then ashes, cow dung, etc. They didn't use modern technology or fertilizers. So that is why resulted in low level of productivity in every areas. Okay. So the cultivator had neither the means nor any incentive to invest in agriculture. The cultivator means the farmer, okay, or the peasant didn't receive any incentive to invest in agriculture. There were no enough money in their hands. Okay, so the British government didn't encourage, they didn't offer any incentives to the farmers. So what happened? They didn't encourage. There were no enough money to do more cultivation. Okay, they were suffering. They were having lack of investment also. So in the field of agriculture, there were no high level of productivity. So this point is also you need to remember. Britishers didn't give any incentive to invest in agriculture. So another point is the zamindars had no roots in the villages, while the British rule spent little on agriculture. So what happened? Zamindari system. Britishers introduced zamindari system. According to this zamindari system, the land went in the hands of zamindars, okay, not in the hands of farmers. Zamindars controlled the land and zamindars controlled the farmers. So all those zamindars, they had no roots in the villages. They had no roots in the villages means they were not from the villages and they were living in the cities. Okay, after that they were just controlling the farmers, while the British rule spent little on agricultural, technical or mass education. Britishers, another thing is that Britishers didn't promote technical education, that we have already studied here. Technology development they didn't do. They didn't implement technology in the field of agriculture. They didn't give any incentive to the farmers in order to produce more products. They didn't invest, they didn't attract the farmers, but their new economic policies, often they made new laws and regulations. All those actually destroyed the agriculture. Okay, then technical or mass education. You know, mass education means the social upliftment must happen through educating more people. Mass education means, you know, that actually giving training to more people, more people get more understanding about agriculture, etc. That they didn't give. Any education camps or any seminars they didn't conduct in the field of agriculture. So technical as well as mass education they didn't do. Okay, so if a country wants more productivity, more productive people, or more people with more skills and professions, then what they need? They need to give proper education. So mass education was not there at that time. All this made it difficult to introduce modern technology, which caused a perpetually low level of productivity. They didn't difficult to introduce, all this made it difficult to introduce modern technology. So the lack of modern technology, which caused a perpetually low level, permanent low level productivity. Permanently our productivity went low level. Why? Because of lack of technology, lack of irrigation, lack of education, lack of mass education, lack of implementing modern technology, lack of educating people, our peasants, how to produce, more yield from the cultivation or from the agriculture, how to produce more yield. They didn't educate people. Okay, they didn't apply modern technology in the field of agriculture. That also, all these points really made Indian economy into low level of productivity. The low level of productivity Indian economy experienced only because of all these points. All these points you need to remember. We can move on to the next point. Scarcity of investment. What is the scarcity of investment? Lack of investment. India's agriculture was facing zero of investment in terracing, flood control and drainage. So Indian farmers were not well aware to do terracing agriculture. You know that land with a slope area, just like mountains, mainly the mountainous areas, hills, hilly region, how to cultivate crops in hilly region, that the technology we were lacking. Okay, so we were lacking, our farmers were lacking all those technology. So Britishers didn't invest more money and also more technology in terracing, terraced areas. So actually that is on the hilly region mainly. So slope area. Okay, so in that area there need actually special skill to make more cultivation that need, especially in South India. The hilly regions are there. In the northeast area there are so many hills. There also people do farming. They need special skill. Okay, that education the government didn't promote such type of education, how to do cultivation on the terraced area. Then flood control and drainage system was not there. Flood control means that sometimes floods occur. So how to control all those floods, okay, how to protect the cultivation area, that also they had no idea, and they didn't make such type of system. Drainage system, there were no drainage system, proper drainage system, so that the water, the excessive water can move fastly. Okay, that they didn't do. Although some farmers changed their cropping pattern from food crops to commercial crops, large section of tenants, small farmers and sharecroppers neither had any resources and technology nor had incentive to invest in agriculture. These points, some points we have already studied today. Okay, although some farmers changed their cropping pattern from food crops to, some farmers moved from the production of food crops to commercial crops. Large section of tenants, small farmers and sharecroppers neither had resources. Okay, many people moved from food production to cash crops production. But even though many tenants, many farmers, many peasants and sharecroppers, what they do, what they do, they take land from the zamindars for lease or for contract, something like that. After that they have to give the major part of the production, the product to the zamindars. That is what actually sharecroppers, they needed to share the crops. Okay, so neither had resources and technology nor had any incentive to invest in agriculture. So the point is that many farmers and peasants, farmers, okay, the cultivators, they were very poor people. They had no enough money and they had no technology too. Okay, that is the main point you need to understand. Sharecropping is a form of agriculture in which a landowner allows a tenant to use the land in return for a share of the crops produced on their portion of land. What is sharecropping? Okay, sharecropping. What is sharecropping? Sharecropping is a form of agriculture. That is a form of agriculture in that the farmer is not having his own land, but he takes land from the landlord, okay, or zamindar. After that the farmer can cultivate more products there. The major portion of the product had to be handed over to the landowner. At last, what is the result? The result is the landowner gain more profit, but the farmer get very less amount. That is what actually happening. Land is landowners. So what they do? They give to hundreds of farmers to do farming. Okay, but the major portion of the production would be shared to the landowner. So landowner got more amount. That happened in those days. Okay, we can move on to the next point. Adverse effect of partition. Partition means what? India divided into two countries, that was Pakistan and India. So adverse effect, what is the adverse effect? What happened? The partition affected India adversely. Okay, India's agricultural production received a further setback due to the country's partition at the time of independence. At the time of independence, India's agriculture field, India's economy, mainly the agriculture area, got setback. Why? Because of country's partition. Why India got setback? Sizable portion of undivided country's highly irrigated and fertile land went to Pakistan. India's main agricultural area was in present days Pakistan. Now also they have good agricultural areas, fertile land. So only because of this partition, what happened? The major portion of the undivided country is highly irrigated. This area was actually highly irrigated and fertile land went to Pakistan. Still that area is with Pakistan. So in those days, all these part of, at present that area is land is in Pakistan. Those area was actually highly irrigated and fertile land went to Pakistan. Almost the whole of jute producing area became part of East Pakistan, now in Bangladesh. So jute production, jute producing area was in northeast side. Today's present, at present all those are areas with Bangladesh. Okay, once this Bangladesh was the part of Pakistan. Okay, so Pakistan, so our major part went to Pakistan. So it was India was like this. Okay, so India was like this. So this area, from this area has gone, and also from this side also. So Pakistan took, okay, divided, these two part went actually. So it was once the Pakistan only one country. After that this area separated from the Pakistan. Okay, now it is Bangladesh is a new country. Okay, so almost the whole of jute producing area became part of East Pakistan. So all this area, so today is Bangladesh. So there actually jute production was an high level. So that area has gone from India, and this fertile land, this area Pakistan took. Okay, so India's economy went down. The agricultural production received a setback due to the country's partition at the time of independence. I hope you understood the point. Okay, almost the whole of jute producing area became part of East Pakistan, now in Bangladesh, this area. India's jute goods industry, which had enjoyed a world monopoly so far. Monopoly means what? Actually the major part of there is no other competitors, only one company or one person is producing the product. Okay, the similar products there is no available, the substitute products are also not available, then so we can say that is a monopoly. In those days, India's jute goods industry, which had enjoyed a world monopoly हमारे पास था. So okay, so we were the major producers of jute. After what happened? After the partition, all those area has gone to Pakistan. So far suffered heavily for lack of raw materials. Once we were the leading country or world monopoly we had in jute production. After the partition, all those areas went to Pakistan. So that also made a setback in India's economic situation. Okay, India's agricultural production received a further setback due to the country's partition at the time of independence. So here what we are the main points are: fertile land, highly irrigated and fertile land went to Pakistan. That is the first point. Okay, that is the main point you needed to understand. Then India's jute goods industry, which had enjoyed a world monopoly so far, suffered heavily for lack of raw materials. Why? All those jute producing area became part of East Pakistan, now in Bangladesh. It happened because India's why? India's because of India's country's partition. Because of India's partition, Britishers divided our country as Pakistan and India. So the major part of all this area went to other country, Pakistan. Okay, so our agricultural production received a setback. These are the main points you needed to remember. Students, I hope you understood all these points. I request you to go through the lesson once more, then understand it more better way. Okay, you should study. Self study is important.